Hi, so today I'd like to introduce a topic that is very personal to me, and I think is a topic that a lot of people are interested in and also dealing with in their own lives, and it's the subject of anxiety. Anxiety has been a major problem in my life, and I'd like to share a little bit about that with you today. It has come out in a few different ways, and one of the big ways that anxiety has reared its ugly head in my life is with panic attacks. And you've heard of panic attacks probably. Some of you have experienced them. But for me, it became such an issue that I actually a couple times had to go to the hospital because of these panic attacks. Panic attacks from the outside, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Why are people panicking? But if you're going through it, your body is just in a real fight or flight mode, and it's a horrible feeling. If you imagine being in a really dangerous situation, like you're in one of those situations where a shooter comes into a building and you're dreading what's going to happen and you want to hide or run away, or you were facing a dangerous animal out in the wild and you thought you were going to be killed. Or you were drowning, something like that. I mean, these are horrible scenarios, but that gives you the idea of the kind of feeling that your body has. I mean, it's really that bad. It's a horrible feeling. You really feel like you're about to die, except that you don't. And so one of the hard things is you don't just get out of it. You don't just suddenly get past the situation. You constantly have this sense of panic. And so I've dealt with panic attacks, and sometimes they come out of nowhere, which is really hard because if you could just imagine, you're in a situation and all of a sudden it seems like out of nowhere your body just starts having all of these reactions, and you're hyperventilating, and your heart is just racing, and you feel horrible. All that adrenaline is flowing, and you feel a sense of dread. That's how a panic attack is. So they're really serious, and if any of you have gone through these type of episodes, trust me, I feel your pain. I've been through it, and it is horrible. That leads to the second way anxieties come out, and that's in the form of social anxiety. Social anxiety has to do with that anxiousness that we feel when we're around other people. And I remember as a student in school, sometimes I would be asked to read, and I can remember actually hyperventilating and having a really hard time getting through the reading. I've had that happen a few times, or having to get up in front of class and give a presentation. And as I'm standing up there in front of everybody, again, I'm hyperventilating and I'm shaking. And so I've really struggled in certain social settings. Even today, sometimes if I'm in like a round table situation, I hate those. It's so weird because I do a lot of things in front of people. But something about that, I'll be in a round table discussion with all these people, and we're all kind of going around introducing ourselves. And sometimes for me, that can be a cause or a source of a lot of anxiety. So social anxiety is just where you're struggling in social settings, being around other people, being in front of other people, that sort of thing. Then the third way that anxiety has come out is just general anxiety. And this can become such a regular problem that it can be diagnosed as general anxiety disorder, I think is what it's called. And these are just general feelings of insecurity and worry, and just almost an impending sense of panic. And for me, that has come out just in a lot of times thinking about the negative a lot. Whenever I'm facing a situation, I'm always thinking about the bad thing that could happen. But so much to the point that it really can become a major source of worry and anxiety. And one of the things that has played into that has been the fact that I can be very panicky. I mean, it's just part of my nature, part of my personality. And so if I'm in front of people and out of nowhere I start to really feel a sense of panic, then the next time that I have to do something, I want to make sure I avoid having any type of panic or bad outcome. And so, I'm always thinking about what can I do to avoid anything bad from happening. So in one sense, a lot of our anxiety has a lot to do with wanting to control, because we feel like things are not under control. And interestingly, panic itself and those feelings can actually lead to even more panic. And so as you start to feel unsettled, you start to say, oh no, I'm panicking, and that leads you to feel even more unsettled and really go in a downward spiral where you're just feeling out of control. So a lot of you can probably relate to this stuff. I will say there are certain personalities that tend toward anxiety and being more of a panic type person. And we're going to talk about that in a coming video, the kinds of personalities. You might find it interesting because it's not like everybody's the same. It's not like there's just one personality type. There are various traits that can lead to a high amount of anxiety, and we're going to talk about those. I also want to talk about the causes of anxiety. I was talking earlier about how panic attacks can just kind of come out of nowhere, but that's not exactly true. They are coming from something, and so we'll look at various causes for anxiety in our lives, things that might be culprits that might be a good thing to take a look at. And that will kind of lead to what I really want to do in this series is lead to give you some hope and give you some encouragement, because I'm not saying this as someone who has just overcome anxiety and I am perfectly okay now. I still struggle with it a lot. I'm saying this as someone who's learned to cope with it, and someone who has to just walk this road on a daily basis. Sometimes I have successes. Sometimes things don't go so well. So I want to hopefully help you and lead you to some ways that you can cope with anxiety. And I also want to say too that think of it like a continuum. I mean, there are people over here who are very low anxiety. They're very chill, and nothing seems to bother them. And there's people over here, like I said, certain traits that tend toward more anxiety, and some are really, really anxious, and really it can get out of control and overtake your life. And if you're in that situation, I just want to encourage you, there is hope, there is help. And I'm not a professional psychologist or counselor, but I'm just saying this stuff as a peer, as someone who's gone through it myself. And so I want to look at ways that we can kind of move from this end of the spectrum, if we're veering this way, to move back to lower levels of anxiety and really get that under control. Because in reality, fear, just like any emotion, it has a place. And so, if you had absolutely no fear, that would be a problem, because, you'd be like, well, I don't have a problem jumping off a building. I'm not scared at all to do that. And then you'd die. So fear can be a good thing. And we want to look at how to have a healthy, balanced aspect of fear in our lives. So that's a little background on anxiety, my own experience with it. And I hope that this has shed light on what I've been through, but also will encourage you to keep watching these videos as I continue to discuss this topic. Thank you so much for watching A Frisch Perspective, and I hope to see you next time.